Bore da, good morning. My name is Peter Lewis and I am a vicar up in Abercynon. I'm also a ministry area lead there, and I've got a role in the diocese as part of the vocations team, particularly thinking not so much about how people may come into being trained in a licensed way like a reader or as a vicar, a priest, but particularly thinking about how God taps us all on the shoulder and wants us to listen to God afresh, has a plan that we can just understand a little bit more. And so I've been invited to Penarth ministry area, as it's going to be, so that I can encourage you to think, wherever you might be today, a little bit more about how God is tapping us on the shoulder and how we can respond. It's a bit of a challenge. Felly mae challenge I fi heddiw oherwydd mae dydd Sul y Trawsnewidiad. Hefyd mae Garawys yn dod, ond hefyd heddiw yw dydd Sant Ffolen. So it's a big challenge. How do I get in? Transfiguration Sunday. We're coming up to Lent, and also it's Valentine's Day. I think all of these things fit together. So let me start with an interesting quotation from Mother Teresa about what does it mean when we invite God to use us. I am a little pencil in God's hands. He does the thinking, he does the writing, he does everything. And sometimes it's really hard because it is a broken pencil and he has to sharpen it a little more. And perhaps here is our connection into Lent. That way that Lent is here for us to explore a bit more of how God is tapping us on the shoulder in our life as a disciple, suddenly to open our eyes and realize we are of use, but God needs to shape us and to lead us and to hone us in the right way. And I'm part of this vocations team in order to assist people to think a bit more afresh, and also maybe to challenge people to recognize, you are really important wherever you may be and whatever you're up to in life. God has a unique purpose for you. So how do we live in that a little bit more? And as we become more of a ministry area, what new things might be ahead for us where we become really important to that picture that God is drawing in the world. But I want to come to the reading that we had today, which is the gospel reading for today and Transfiguration. So you may find it helpful to have a visual aid, but I'd like to divide the episode into three parts. At the beginning, Jesus was tapping three disciples on the shoulder and inviting them to go a bit deeper, inviting them into a place where they would encounter something that would challenge and encourage and build them up in faith. He was doing the leading, and in the episode, he led them up a mountain. So after that first stage, what happened next? Well, there was this kind of mysterious encounter where Jesus suddenly, in a material way, was transformed, and the voice of God communicated to... Well, God's voice wasn't particularly communicating to Jesus, wasn't particularly communicating to Elijah or Moses. It was to these three people. God was communicating directly to the three disciples. And there was that opportunity for an encounter. After that second phase comes the third phase, where Jesus and the disciples come down the mountain. And what's happening then? Well, these three are puzzling about it. They're thinking about it. They're processing, what we'd say often today. They're trying to work out, well, what has that gone on? And what does it mean for me? How does it all fit together. And that stage of puzzling followed the time when God spoke directly to them. And that was preceded by the time when they were drawn into something. Now, I wonder if you can build up from there this idea of vocation or calling, where very often you might be drawn to something by what somebody says or something that's happening, something in the world. Particularly in this time of lockdown and pandemic, we're drawn to think about things like we've never thought about them before. And God may be wanting us to go a bit deeper and a bit more secure in our faith to find out, gosh, what does this mean for me? And the brilliant thing, we may be at home worshipping today rather than in a church building, but God is with us and God speaks to us. And so it's up to us to puzzle things out and to think things through. So I meet a lot of people when I'm chatting about what God is saying, and there are different ways of understanding a puzzle. Here's one of them. If you play around on the computers a lot, there's a load of things on YouTube and Instagram and stuff like that and TikTok about puzzles, mechanical puzzles that you have to work out. You might remember these from Christmas crackers and the like. How do you separate? How do you arrange? It's a mechanical puzzle. There's only one way really to solve it, unless you get a hacksaw out or you cheat. And listening to God is not really like that, because there's a lot of pressure on you to get it done, particularly if other people are watching you. Is that a great analogy for us to understand what it's like when God is tapping us on the shoulder? Is that an analogy for when the disciples went up the mountain to understand what God was going to reveal and show to them? I don't think this idea of God putting us under pressure and there's a right or a wrong, because lots of people will never solve that. And I don't want you to think that you will never hear from God or never be affirmed and never be blessed. That's not such a great way of looking at it. But this might be a good way. You may be a person who loves jigsaws. You've got to build up things with the jigsaw puzzle, haven't you? There is often a pattern to look at, but it's quite hard going, and you have to get quite a bit of reserve to keep going on the more complicated ones. And of course, when you come to the last piece, well, it's finished. You don't normally go back and redo them again and again and again. You've reached an end point. And this has got some drawbacks if you think of working out what God is saying to us as putting the pieces together, although as an image in our mind, it does work. The thing is that when you reach the end, that is it. But the encounter with Jesus that disciples had was that they were always learning more. They were always going a bit deeper. There was always something else that was being put together. There was never like an end point when you see everything and it's all complete. Jesus had this ability to just draw people on and on. I wonder if that for you is part of your discipleship, that you want to know a bit more and you realize that it's a gradual, sometimes a slow experience of God tapping you on the shoulder and revealing something. So here's an image which works for me best. It might be helpful to you. It's pass the parcel. So imagine pass the parcel, where there's a parcel that comes to you and it stops on you. And so you unwrap it, and it's that kind of parcel where there's a reward, there's an encouragement, there's a sweetie probably, or a piece of chocolate, something there which is just for you to enjoy. And then you pass the parcel on and you wait for it to come again. Imagine the parcel which never finishes. It just keeps going on. And you unwrap something and there's something for you to enjoy. And then you pass it on. Do you know, for me, more and more, this is a useful way of looking at how God wants to bless our life. so that we can pass something on which will bless other people as well. And I find that God does speak to me in small ways or big ways, the more that I'm expectant and waiting. These kids, they can't wait until that parcel comes to them. And maybe in our spiritual life, we need to adopt that expectation. The 3 disciples, as they went up the mountain, they were expectant that Jesus was going to do something. They didn't know what, but they were ready to receive what God had for them. So St. Valentine's Day today, and we remember all kinds of love. How good is it for us then just to pause and refresh our life by celebrating that God has a purpose for us, which is to express love. More and more these days we can see how love can be stirred up in our community and in our world, and we've got this chance to be still sometimes before God and be an expectant and to listen, because God is always ready to tap us on the shoulder and to speak into our lives. Now here in the Vocations team, we're always ready to help and encourage, felly dyma fy e-bosti, here's my email. And you're welcome to get in touch, because at the minute we're delivering 4 sessions to people to think about listening to God and exploring our calling. And I'm not particularly thinking about being called to be a vicar. I'm thinking about, your life every day. What is it that you're involved in, or in ministry areas coming together? What new thing can you be involved in? Perhaps someone's inviting you to look at something new within church life, and you want to know, well, okay, I might have the skills to do it, but how is God drawing me into this? So the sessions that we've got, they're very short. They're just 1 hour each, and they're spaced about a month apart. It's called Listening to God, Exploring Our Calling. Please get in touch with me if you'd like to be part of it. And our encouragement to everybody is to know that you are of infinite worth to God. And the more that we can do simply to be expectant, whatever God is going to reveal to us, we know it's a good purpose for him. So thank you to everyone who's invited me here today. Hello from the whole of the Vocations team, and we want a blessing over you and your ministry area as you move forward. Diolch. Bye-bye.